Hello, good evening, and welcome to episode number 11 of the Intellectual Forum, the Happiness Club. Today's topic is a very fresh topic, I am sure, and I'm really wondering if you have ever discovered or found out how sales can be fun. Yes, sales is fun. And I have the pleasure to have with me my lovely friend and fellow author, Michelle Strydom. Hello, Michelle, how are you?
I'm very good, Huda. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. Looking forward.
Yes, thank you for having me.
Michelle explains in her book, in her upcoming book actually, that sales is fun. Michelle is the CEO of the SMG Group, and she is an emotional intelligence certified coach from Goldman. Michelle is a keynote speaker at leadership forums, networks, Dubai Eye Radio. She has over 20 years of successful sales performance and corporate experience, and she has successfully led sales teams around the world and assisted them in improving their sales closing rate from 14 to 65%. She also held the position of retention director for 6 years in charge of $450 million and took their retention rate from 88% to 97%. Quite an achievement and a very high rate. So today we are going to discuss many topics like the unwritten rules of the corporate world, the transition into a sales role, and what are the characteristics of a successful salesperson. What does passion of truly connecting with people has to do with sales? Reading people's behavior, reading people's mind, reading people's personality. What is the sales funnel process? So really, I can't wait to learn from Michelle how sales can be fun and how can we deliver results. So now I will start with the first question. Michelle, can you tell us a little bit in the beginning about the younger and your informative years, where you were born and where you grew up?
Thanks, Huda. I actually was born, I come from the African continent, and I was actually born in a country called Zimbabwe. And I lived in a northern mining town. It was the northern part of the country. It was a small mining town. So that's where I was born, called Bunjura. And then in 1980, my family left Zimbabwe and we moved to another beautiful African country called Swaziland. And that was where I spent my informative years, and my parents lived there for 30 years.
Great. And how was the transitioning from a PR role in the world of corporate and business into a sales role?
It's a great question, Huda, because I was the PR manager for an organization when I finished my studies and I started working in South Africa. And at the time, there was an opportunity and a sales opening in the organization. And I must say the transition wasn't too much of a shift, because as the PR manager, I had to work with many of our clients in the organization, and the sales team used to ask me to help support them in presentations or in client functions. So there was always some sort of interaction. So it wasn't too much of a shock to the system, but the big reality was when you're heading up a sales team, you're responsible to achieve a sales budget. So that was a big shift for me, having not had that responsibility before.
Yes, and also in your book, you mentioned that usually the experience required in that role is prior sales experience, proven track record of sales success, management experience in leading a sales team, leadership experience in managing a department, head of department experience, a lot of things. And you wrote down that you didn't have any of these, but all you had really is enthusiasm and determination, and that was enough.
Yes, you're absolutely right. Because I think when I started the job, I remember on the first day sitting there thinking, wow, there's a lot of responsibilities.
Exactly. Quite a responsibility, of course. In your opinion, Michelle, what are the personal characteristics required for a person to be successful in the capacity of sales? Michelle, do you hear me?
For me, I hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
It's fine?
Yes.
Coming back to the characteristics, you need to be resilient, Huda, in terms of being able to bounce back, because as you know, with sales, you get knocked down, you have to get back up again. So being resilient and being persistent is important. You certainly need to have a thick skin, because you can't take things too personally at times when things go wrong, because it's not an easy job. It's pretty tough. It's competitive. So I guess like any job, especially in sales, the characteristic for me that stands out, Huda, as well, is you've got to be very hardworking. You've got to be a people connector, because it's people orientated when you're buying and trying to influence and convince another human being. So your attitude is important, to develop a positive attitude to keep you going and progressing forward. But I must also add that you also need to be kind to yourself. That's important in sales.
Okay, great. Just, I would like to say hi to my lovely audience on live on Instagram. If you have any question, please do not hesitate to write it down. I will make sure to answer all your questions live. And for those who did not attend, I will record this episode and upload it on my YouTube channel, Huda El Sobki, one word. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do subscribe to get notified of any new videos or episode. So Michelle, let's continue. What is it, that sweet spot that can create a real and sincere connection with a specific client?
If you really want to connect sincerely with a client, Huda, you've got to be able, before you meet that client, what's very important is you need to research them properly. You need to find out about them, because you can only make a purposeful connection if you resonate with them on an emotional level. And I don't mean by walking in and saying to the client, "Did you have a nice weekend?" That's not resonating and having a sincere connection. So you have to research and find out about the client. How can you walk in and connect with empathy, show compassion, but connect with purpose that draws the client closer to you and forming a sincere connection to start with?
Very good, yes. And regarding the sales funnel process program, how was it a game changer for you? How does it work to increase sales tremendously? So training is important in sales.
Very much so. And if I look back, I've been in this industry for over 20 plus years, Huda, as you know, but the sales funnel program was the first formal sales program that I was trained on over 18 years ago. And the program itself really taught me how, in my very first meeting with the client, to get the client to agree to buy from me, to get them to agree to want to work with you as an organization. Because so many times as sales professionals, business owners, entrepreneurs, we have to sell our own business, we tend to chase deals that we're never going to get, and we don't realize that. So it's very important, because time is money in sales. You don't want to be wasting your time chasing an opportunity that you really have a low probability of getting from the beginning. So the sales funnel program was my starting block in terms of understanding how to have an effective sales process, which obviously over the years has evolved very nicely.
Very good. So again, I will ask you, what is the importance of training in sales, and why it is important to receive a refresher training every now and then?
It's such a brilliant question, Huda, because it amazes me when I work with entrepreneurs and large multinational clients and companies, how many of their sales leaders, their salespeople, even entrepreneurs, business owners themselves, they're responsible to sell, yet none of them have had formal sales training. And for me, insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, but expecting different results. So even for me, after 20 years, I never stopped learning in sales. So it's so important that organizations and that business owners invest in developing their own sales skills, because you don't know what you don't know until somebody can help you build the confidence, show you the techniques and the tools, and give you processes that actually work, that are based on the real business world. Certainly my whole brain selling program is very effective. But what happens, especially in today's world with the pandemic and what everyone's gone through, terrible stress in their companies, and yet the sales professionals are still responsible to sell. Yet the clever organizations during these times, Huda, they will invest in their best sales talent to keep training them, because they know when they come up on the other side and the economies get stronger, their sales teams are going to get out the blocks running, not walking, and they're going to leave their competition behind. But typically, unfortunately, most companies just they circle the wagons. They don't want to spend money on investing in their sales teams, yet they expect them to perform. And sales is the lifeblood of an organization, because without clients, you don't have a business. And how do you get clients? You've got to be good at selling.
Yes, of course. Michelle, they say that today slogan, they say, stop selling, start helping, then watch how your business will grow. How true is this statement applicable to today's world of sales?
It's very true, because I like to frame it to say, serving is the new selling. How are we serving our clients and our customers? Because gone are the days, Huda, of being a hard-nosed, aggressive seller. Nobody's interested in that. Nobody's going to entertain. They'll want to run away and stay very far away from you. So we have to demonstrate what is the value we can bring to our clients and customers that can truly help them manage their problems, solve their issues. So what are we bringing to the table of value, of true value, in serving them to be more effective and to bring them a better ROI is really, really important these days.
Great. And why do you think it is crucial to always make time to celebrate your own successes in the world of sales, even if it is a kind of small reward?
I love celebrating success. You're touching my heart very nicely, Huda. Why? Because sales is a very tough job. To me, it's the least respected. It's the hardest to do. You're juggling all these balls. You're trying to keep afloat. You're relying on other people to do their job. So because it's so competitive, no matter what industry we're all in or what service or product we sell, when you have some success, you really need to cherish it. You need to embrace it and celebrate it, whether you shout from the rooftop, whether you dance like nobody's watching you, whatever you do, that small reward, that big reward, it's important to do that. And I was very passionate about living this value when I was leading teams all over the world, because so many companies I work with, they have success and they say, well done for 5 minutes, and then you've got to move on. No, you've got to stop. You've got to celebrate that success, because remember, when you're feeling that celebratory success, success breeds success. So you want to be able to stay in that positive feeling, because your thoughts become your reality to attract more success.
Yes, for sure, sales is not something easy. And I think you have, as you said, you have to research your client as much as you can. I would like to learn from you, what is left and right sales strategies? Please explain more on that.
Human beings have, some people are more left-brained and some people are more right-brained. And some are a combination of both. And a right-brained person would be somebody who is more in touch with their emotions, their intuition, they're more creative, whereas a left-minded brained person is someone who's more analytical, they're more methodical, they're more logical. So to be a good seller, you really need to have a combination of left and right brain strategies. It's not one or the other. It's really being able to combine both is really what we need to be aiming for. Because when we lose a deal, most of the time it's because of a right brain reason. It's not because of our price. It's not because our proposal didn't meet the scope of service or it didn't look attractive. It's a right brain reason, but a lot of the times as sales professionals, we don't understand what that means.
Right reason, like what? Can you give us an example, maybe that happened before in a deal?
Sure, no problem. I was once pitching for a very lucrative deal, about 25 million dirham, for a big client in Abu Dhabi. and we were doing a presentation to the client. We were shortlisted with another competitor.
Yeah.
And what we were doing is at the presentation, we were demonstrating some of our innovative food service concepts that we wanted to make part of our solution. Anyway, we were very confident after the presentation. We got great feedback. The client seemed to be happy, so we were expecting to get the contract. Anyway, a long story short, we never got the contract. And when we went back and did a post-mortem and had a discussion with the client, they said, oh no, we weren't comfortable with your operations team. And I said, why? They're really some of the best in the industry. And I knew something wasn't right. Anyway, a week passed and we went back and had another discussion. And what turned out is that one of the clients in the team, the panel on the client side in the presentation, before our presentation started, because we did it in a building, they happened to look out the window and see one of our operations team getting out of a taxi with bags full of food. So we didn't know any of this, but having looked at that gave them a level of discomfort. And to be honest, Huda, they never trusted our ability, thinking, wow, are they bringing our food from outside in a taxi? So that actually lost us a 25 million dirham deal. And our price was actually very competitive. We know it was. But it's the trust element that really broke that deal. And that is a right brain reason and an example of how you can lose a deal. It could be in a relationship. The client could love you, but maybe not like your partner. So it could be anything, but it's a very important thing linked to a right brain sales strategy. So you've got to have a played out plan and a strategy to actually cater to both sides of the strategy.
Yeah, so sometimes the small details really matter. So, I mean, we have to take care of everything when starting a deal, and this is how you close a deal. So
Correct.
It is not easy. Sales is really not easy. I would like to know if we can simplify the process of sales. How can we build around the concept that it is all about building meaningful relationships with clients, of course?
Sales for me is all about relationships. Whether you're selling Huda face-to-face, whether we're in a virtual sales world like we are now, at the end of the day, people are still going to buy from people they like. And more importantly, people are going to like people like themselves. That's very important to understand that, because think about it, you're not going to buy from a person that you don't like and trust, no matter if it's virtual, face-to-face, via the phone, video, whatever it is. So relationships play an absolutely critical part in the sales world in terms of whether we win or lose. It starts with the relationships. That's the foundation of how we need to be connecting with our clients. So it's absolutely critical.
Yes, so building relationship, maybe building trust is very important and crucial to the sales and to the client to make sure that the deal will be closed. I knew that you made that shift to the Middle East. So I want to know, how was the shift to the Middle East clients in your business and corporate world, and even in your personal life? Was it an easy and smooth shift, or was it a little bit difficult? I'm sure you have learned many things from the shift, because we always learn from change and we grow even from change. When we make any change in our life, this helps in the self-development and in our own growth.
Very true, because when you have change and you're out of your comfort zone, Huda, as you say, you grow when you are a little bit uncomfortable. That's really where your most development comes from. So certainly, having moved from Africa to the Middle East, whenever one has to uproot the family and move, it is stressful for everybody, naturally. But certainly, I guess, having lived in different countries throughout my life growing up, moving and embracing new environments and cultures, I have to say something that I actually feed off. I actually look forward to it, because in many countries that I lived in and worked and grew up in, there were many different nationalities that one was mixing with locally and globally from obviously overseas. So for me, coming to the Middle East was a shift in more of a relocation perspective on your personal life for sure to settle down. But I do recall being very excited to embrace the Middle East culture, really learning, and I've made phenomenal personal and professional friends from an Arabic nationality and culture, Asian, and even some other Western countries where I hadn't communicated and really built relationships with before. So that was a really wonderful part of my own self-development and getting to understand and embrace what all of that meant when you do come across new cultures that you haven't been experiencing before.
Yes, great. So let me take a minute to check if there is any questions. Here I received one question. You talked before, or you said about persistent breaks down resistance. So please elaborate more on this statement.
In sales, you have to be persistent in terms of follow-up, because so many times when I'm working with sales teams, it's an observation, Huda, I pick up. It's good to be persistent, but you need to do it professionally. You can't be a pain and bug the client, but you can't also sit back and expect the client to be chasing you. This is about the client. You need to have that persistence. So you need to have that follow-up, because don't rely on the client to come back to you. And I've always said this before, that if the client goes quiet on you and they're not talking to you, it means they're talking to somebody else. So you need to be very thorough in being consistent and persistent in that follow-up in your own sales process.
Yeah, great. Regarding the retention, Michelle, can you give us an example of retention strategy that can retain your top clients? And by top clients, I mean the ones that bring the 20% that bring the 80% of the revenue.
We find that in an organization, and especially if you in the sales role, it's great if you have a fantastic growth strategy that you're achieving. So you're growing very well on this side, but on the other side, you're losing existing clients. So you have to make sure that you have a process and strategy that secures both sides of your business, your growth and your retention. And coming back to your point, if you have some clients in your business, whatever your business is, that make up 80% of your revenue, as you say, Huda, and you lose one or two of those, you're in trouble. You really are in trouble. So you need to have a retention strategy in place. And besides my whole brain selling sales programs that I work with my clients with, I also have a retention strategy called winning account management strategy, where I work with clients to embed a very holistic and structured retention program and strategy that allows you to be forward thinking to ensure that you retain the key clients that make up that 80%. So you've got to keep them secure. And unfortunately, in most situations, it's only when the contract comes up for renewal or something goes wrong, then we're running around trying to save the contract. You should never try and save a contract when it's in distress. You should be securing a client that you have, that likes you, and hopefully you've done a good job, that trusts you. You want to, in the good days, be securing that relationship way before it gets to the end of the contract period.
Michelle, I believe you have kind of a godfather of sales. Who is he and why? He or she?
It's a he, and he is a wonderful American gentleman whose name is Ray Leone, and he taught me my first formal sales program and has been a wonderful sales mentor to me. He's been in sales well over 50 years, so he has huge experience, and he is still a great personal friend of mine today. So that's why I call him my godfather.
Great. Also, I read about your $15 million deal. I want to know how was it? How was the landing of this deal? It was the first and largest contract the company has ever gained. But meanwhile, I would like to know from you, what is a bad deal? And what is the art of closing a deal? It's a compound question, a question. It has 3 components. So I want to learn more from you about that deal of $15 million, which was the largest contract in the company. And meanwhile, I want to know if there is a bad deal, how does it look like? And at the end, I would like to know from you, what is exactly the art of not losing a deal and of closing a good deal?
Okay. Very good questions, Huda.
Thank you.
First of all, the $15 million deal was a phenomenal deal. It changed my life for all the right reasons, because I had been in the country for about 8 months. So it was very special to me in terms of that process, and took a lot of hard work, not only from me, but other people who supported me in that process. So I was very grateful for that. But there is definitely such a thing as a bad deal. If one looks at a great successful deal, what's on the other side of the coin? There is very much bad sales deals out there. And a bad deal is generally one, Huda, where you, as the person trying to get the deal, becomes almost desperate. Why? Because it might be $15 million. So you're attracted by that big number. Or it is a blue chip client that is well known globally. So something there kind of makes you feel desperate to want to get it. And when that happens, sometimes you do things that you live to regret. So a bad deal is being desperate and what I call having commission breath. You're like, oh, so desperate to get it, that when you get it and that contract is signed, you regret it immediately. So you never want to enter into a contract for which it's going to make you angry or annoyed. You never want to feel desperate and have this huge pressure on you for all the wrong reasons, because that is just too stressful. Absolutely. Rather walk away, because I have before in my sales career gone into deals for the wrong reasons and lived to regret it, because the contract, you couldn't get out of it for 3 years. That was a very painful 3 years for all the wrong reasons. So you have to have your eyes open. You have to keep your feet on the ground. You have to see the full picture. And when it comes to the art of closing a deal, that is probably, without a doubt, the hardest thing in a sales process that generally people responsible to sell their business battle with. And why do I think that is, Huda? I think it is because generally we're too scared to ask for the business. We're too scared to ask clients for the business. Why? We might think it's being pushy, it's unprofessional, it's disrespectful. That's all rubbish. You've got to be able to close the deal with conviction and with confidence. And in the programs that I teach, we have very simplistic and very easy and very effective techniques that allow you to actually say a sentence to a client that helps you close the deal quicker. But people battle to close because no one's taught them. They don't know what to say, and they're too scared to ask for the business is the main reasons why people don't close deals.
Wow. Amazing. Can you please, Michelle, give me benchmarks when it comes to hiring the right salespeople in your organization? Are there any specific soft skills prerequisite for a salesperson, or all can be acquired through training, as you mentioned? As you mentioned, that training is so important, but can it cover if the person lacks the main characteristic of a good salesperson? The training can cover for it?
There definitely is global benchmarks when it comes to soft skills that if you want to be a good seller, they have done studies and research, for sure, to say certain soft skills can make you more an effective seller. For sure, those are out there. But I have a mindset in two sides of that camp. First of all, yes, possessing some soft skills that are going to help you through your negotiations, through your sales process is important, but there's nothing that can't be taught. And I always say to my clients that I work with, large and small, your sales success starts with who you hire. And you can really get it right or wrong right from that first hurdle of who you're hiring to help you grow your business. And often I see that organizations hire salespeople and set them up to fail. Why? Because they're expecting them to do a job the seller doesn't want to do. Why? Because I'm a certified behavior and motivators analyst, so I'm an expert in that field. And companies hire somebody to be money motivated and smash the monthly sales target, where all that seller wants to do is save the world. So there's a conflict in values. There's a conflict from the company's values to what you as a human being and as a seller, what you value in life. So I work very closely and offer very effective sales assessments that blends 3 or 4 what I refer to as powerful human sciences. So for example, the science will share with you, number 1, how are you going to do the job? And that's linked to your behavioral traits. Then it's going to tell you, do you want to do the job that the company is expecting you to do, which is your motivators and your value linked to your value system. Then we want to know, can you do the job, which is linked to your skills, your competencies. And then the 4th science that we throw in is your emotional intelligence, which is the number 1 predictor of an individual's success. So coming back to your question on the benchmarks, what I would recommend is that organizations, there isn't a one benchmark that fits all, in my opinion. Why? Because it depends on your industry. What is it you're selling? Is it tech? Is it a service? Is it B2C? Is it online? Is it commodity? Is it B2B service world? So I normally work with organizations when they don't have a benchmark and they're not sure what is the personality style that the seller should have. We do what we call a job benchmarking exercise, and we come up with all these benchmarks that fit these different sciences. Then the client has something real that they can then go to market and find that talent and find somebody out there that matches those benchmarks. So it definitely can be done. It can differ per industry, and depending if you're product or selling or all those dynamics come into it. But there's no one perfect benchmark. It all has different factors that come in linked to your behavior, your motivators, your competency, and the emotional intelligence is an important one that some leaders want to see as well. Some don't, but I have different assessments that are fit for purpose.
Yes. This leads me to wonder, have you ever experienced that you had a salesperson in your organization, or you saw somewhere in other organization, who really didn't have like obvious characteristic to be a good salesman, and then he turned out to be a very good salesman, either through training or all by himself? He was motivated enough to close big and large deals, or even like yourself, because you started somehow at a certain point where you did not have that much experience, and then you excelled.
Correct. To me, Huda, you can definitely have what I call diamonds that just need to be polished. You can have huge talent in your team that may not be performing well. Why? For me, there can be a couple of reasons. Number 1, leadership has a lot to do with it. So who is the sales leader that is leading and guiding and motivating and supporting their sales team? They might be great, they might not be so great. So leadership comes into it definitely in terms of building confidence, motivation, and self-belief. That is a huge component. But I always say, if the person's got the right attitude, we can teach them the skills of sales, because the approach I take in my sales programs, Huda, is it's practical and based on the real business world. So it's not complicated. It's not academic. You can walk out of my program and tomorrow apply what you've learned. So definitely, if you have someone with the right attitude and the desire to be hungry to grow, that is 3/4 of the battle won. But you've got to then give them a roadmap. It's like, just say from Dubai, we don't know how to get to Ras Al Khaimah, and we don't have a map. We're living just in the desert. There's no roads. How are we going to get there? You have to have a roadmap to know, how do I go from point A to point B? And our sales process arms the people I work with to understand what that road looks like to get you from A to B. And of course, it takes time, but we don't want you to go off track and get lost. So certainly when you have a roadmap and a process that you can follow, that you can apply to the best of your ability, you definitely can go from somebody who's average to somebody who can be a sales superstar. I have to just say the last point, and I learned this from my mentor as well, Huda, is you do have people in organizations that are untrainable. They just don't want to learn. They believe they know it all, and they just are not prepared to make any internal shifts, even if they're good, performing well, or they're not performing well. So I must be honest, I haven't come across many, but I certainly have been in environments where you can just see there may be a problem in terms of that person's inner ability not really to want to be trained. So it does happen. I can't say it doesn't happen, because it does on the odd occasion.
Yeah, I was wondering while you were talking, some people can sometimes luck do happens in sales. I mean, sometimes luck has a role to play in sales. Is this true? Is it applicable, or no? It is just the effort done by the whole team, by the person. But I don't know why. I have kind of a feeling that luck can sometimes play a role. You know, I have been an account manager for 4 years in Egypt, and I felt I did a lot of effort, but sometimes luck played a crucial role in my success and in achieving my target. In a sense that sometimes I work in an account that doesn't get any deals, and all of a sudden I found another account that are calling me and they're telling me we will work with you. So is this logic that luck can sometimes have a role in sales?
I think luck has a serious role to play in sales. So I'm loving what you're saying. There is definitely luck as part of the sales equation, and you need to have sales luck. And sometimes, at the best of times, we stumble across luck, because you can't say, let me create luck. Luck appears, it comes to you, it pops up around the corner when you least expect it. And I always call it lady luck, because I show it respect, because I want it to come back and give me some more. But luck plays a huge part in sales, and often in my career as well, and in my business now, Huda, for me, it can be as simple as being at the right place at the right time, interjecting and meeting somebody who knows somebody else who opens the door. Never underestimate your own backyard of your network, of people who remember you from your key account days in Egypt. Because the impact that you make in people, sometimes you don't realize that can come back in life in different shapes and forms. So when luck presents itself from a sales perspective, grab it with both hands and hang on to it, because we all need a bit of luck in sales, without a doubt. We try and control our sales destiny to the best of our ability, but we do need a bit of luck where it flips our way, and then we've got to take it, run with it, and be proud of it, 100%.
Yeah, that's true. Since we are talking about sales, and from our discussion and talk, I feel that sales is really hard. We have quota, we have targets to do, we are stressed, there is pressure everywhere, and your boss or your company is asking for a specific number, which sometimes is difficult to realize. So can you please tell me, Michelle, how can sales be enjoyable and not terrifying? And most importantly, how can it be fun, as you say in your book, and how can we make sure to always be consistent in delivering results?
And I purposely, because I'm sure when this book's going to be launched very soon, people are going to say, this woman's crazy.
Yeah.
Sales fun.
Yeah,
Is it crazy?
It's really crazy.
Absolutely.
I was so attached to the title. Sales is fun. So I want to know how. How can sales be fun?
And you're absolutely right. I'm going to tell you why and how I believe sales can be fun for everybody, no matter who you are. Because I have, again, people from large multinational companies to business owners saying to me, Michelle, I'm not comfortable in selling. I'm not good at it. I don't like it. I mean, I get that often. And for me, honestly, if you just take a step back and think about it, whoever we are in life, forget the sales role for now. But as as a human being yourself, for example, a wife, a mother, a friend to so many people, every one of us are selling every single day of our lives. We just don't realize it. Why? Because we're trying to convince and influence somebody to do something. So it might be your daughter. It might be your friend. It might be your husband. Oh, let's go to this restaurant. No, I want to go to this one. And you have this debate. So every single one of us has got the sales mix in us anyway that we naturally display and do every single day of our lives. So for me, it's a mindset thing. People have a self-limiting belief that it's tough.
Yeah.
No, it's not tough. Why it feels tough is because they don't know what they don't know. Nobody has shown them. They're not sure what to do. So it's a total lack of confidence, which makes them terrified, which makes them scared. So if you have the right partner and person that can actually say, actually, I can help build your confidence, and it's not so terrifying. And I say this to all my clients. And I've had many, many clients that have not been extrovert sellers, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
A lot of them have been reserved. A lot of them have been introverts. And I say this to everyone, and especially to them. I'm not here to change you. I don't want to change you. I want to make you, the reserved introvert, the best version of your sales self that you'll ever be. Because you'll be far better when you finished with me than you were when you started with. So once I have the tools and I know how to drive the car and I'm feeling confident, wow, I actually can do this, you will see that when you're out there enjoying yourself, you are having fun, and actually success and the results will start coming. Of course, it's a journey, but I love what I do. I'm really passionate about what I do, and there's no ways I could have begun this business of mine if I did not know and believe that every day I am waking up to enjoy, to really be passionate in supporting watching other people grow and improve their sales results, and take the pain out of their non-performance, because I know what that feels like as well. And of course you're going to have highs and lows, but I have fun every single day because it's a mindset shift. And we're not trying to invent and change who we are. I had many sellers who worked under me, Huda, who were actually more reserved people and were absolutely phenomenal sellers. So we can be the best version we can, and it can be enjoyable, and you can go out there and view it through different glasses, and you'll be amazed what comes of it. So when that book comes out, you'll understand how it's going to be fun.
Wow, great. So I need a signed copy from now. I'm reserving my signed copy. Yes, I agree to simplify things, and if you have passion, I think that's the secret sauce, maybe. So I have one question from the Instagram live that I would like to take to the surface now. So what are some of the tips and takeaways of sales secrets you can contribute and share with us today?
Very good question. Thank you, whoever sent that in. I would start by saying you need to talk less and listen more, would be my first tip.
Okay.
When we are with our clients, we need to know how to uncover their pain and what their problems and their challenges are, Huda, because if they're not in pain, they don't need us. There's no desire, there's no requirement, there's no urgency. The last thing I would say is your clients are buying for two reasons, either to gain pleasure or to avoid pain. So it's important you try and work out which one it is, would be my 3 key tips.
Okay. Great. I would like to remind the audience that this episode will be recorded on my YouTube channel, which is Huda El Sobki. El Sobki is one word. Please subscribe if you haven't yet subscribed to be able to see the new episode and the new videos. And now I proceed with Michelle, and I have a very prominent question. When buyers are ready to buy, where do they go? Where will I find them?
from a buyer perspective, we need to realize when we're selling our business, Huda, that the buyers that are looking for acquiring our services or our products, they are far more attuned to researching us more than ever, especially in today's digital world. So the research they will do on us, on our organization, on our competitors as well, is far more detailed and thorough than 20 plus years ago when I started in this business. It's a different ball game, because when buyers are ready to buy, 62% of them are going to try and find you and look for you through a search engine. 48% they say are going to go to your actual website. So you've got to think about what message is that putting out there and how does that look and feel. And then if you've had contact with this buyer, then they are going to, about 38% are going to read your old emails that you've sent them, or newsletters, maybe marketing newsletters that you've sent to them or shared them about your business. So those are really the three levers that buyers are going to use based on research today of what they're going to do and where they're going to go when they're looking to acquire your products or your services.
Yes. So it goes also to the process of digitalization, that now everything is being digital. So maybe we can find them online. So it made things easier for the seller, but also more difficult, because clients nowadays have access to all the sellers. They can compare, they can research, they can know more details. So it's a double sword weapon, maybe. Yeah.
Yes, no, I agree with that comment.
Yes. Michelle, can you please tell us in brief about the pre-meeting checklist? And I went through it. It is very detailed. What you need to focus on to increase the probability of a successful meeting with client. You have made a list of things, like 6 or 7 points, where before I go to meet a client, I can have it with me, and it's a checklist. I just write down, what do I need to have with me? What are certain preparations to ensure that the meeting will be a successful one and will lead maybe to closing a deal?
And the reason, Huda, I put together that pre-meeting checklist is because I picked up very quickly throughout the workings of my business with different clients all over the world that there's such a lack of preparation before you meet with that client, and that first meeting is so critical. So it's a user-friendly one-pager, 6 questions, as you rightly say, just to really help you as a sales professional think about what it is you should be planning and preparing in order to have an effective meeting. And one of the things that strikes me a lot when working with different sales professionals, Huda, is that you need to have a goal for the meeting. So if you're going in to see the client, what is your goal for that meeting? What I mean by that, what do you want to get out of that meeting as a one single goal? And that needs to be very clear in your mind, because often we just go in there, we just have a chat, we walk out, nothing happens, we never hear from them, and it's a complete waste of your and the client's time. So the pre-meeting checklist is a way and a tool to help you stay on track, to prepare more effectively, and to think about what is my goal for the meeting. And it could be as simple, Huda, as my goal could be getting you to agree to see me a second time. It could be my goal is wanting you to say, Michelle, I'm going to invite you to our tender next month that's coming.
Yeah.
It could be we want to understand if they're happy with their current sales trainer or their executive coach that they're working with now, the other supplier that's our competition. That might be our goal. Let's see if they're happy or if they're not happy. So have a very clear goal and do everything in your power before you leave that meeting to have achieved that goal. And I do that, I swear by it. Every single meeting I have a very clear goal, and 99.9%, not 100%, but most of the time I walk out there having achieved it. Why? Because I'm focused, because I've prepared. Without all of that, you can lose focus. It's trying to keep people on track.
Yes, it's a great tool, really. And also, I see some points like how do you monetize this? What is your plan to make a great first impression? And how to research before going. So very useful tips. And all this will be in your book, the checklist
Yes.
and the table. So that's really
Yes.
awesome. Going to the next question. Please tell us in brief what are the dominant DISC personality styles, because I learned from your book that there are styles for salespeople, and this is categorized in four. It's a table of four dominant character, like the D for dominance, the I for influencer, the S for steadiness, and the C for compliance. So these are all personal characteristics that can play a great role in the sales success, I think.
Very much so. Great question, Huda, because if you look at your being a DISC certified behavioral analyst, which I am, and my assessments link into that, if you look at the foundation of your sales success, you've articulated those four personality styles: the dominance, influence, steadiness, and compliance, the DISC. As human beings, all of us have a combination of all four of those letters. So when it comes back to me as the salesperson, it's very important, Huda, I know what is my dominant style. What does dominant mean? It means that if you had to do a DISC assessment with me, the score that comes out of 100, the highest on one of those letters makes it my dominant style, whatever it's D, I, S, or C it may be. So I first have to understand what is my dominant style, so that then when I come and meet with Huda, my potential client for the first meeting, I've got to understand and become a DISC expert. So when I am communicating and observing her, I need to be able to work out quickly what is Huda's dominant style. Because if I'm just coming there and being myself, and I'm making no adaptation of my personality style to be able to be the emotional twin of yours, Huda, I'm going to get it wrong 3 out of 4 times, and then you mustn't wonder why you don't get the deal. So being very aware of what is my style, how and when do I need to adapt when I'm sitting with the client who has a opposite DISC personality style to me, and how do I communicate and how do I treat that person in a way that they want to be treated, because each one of those styles are very, very, very different. So it's a fundamental critical part of you closing a deal and being successful and connecting emotionally with that client, because they're going to feel comfortable with you, because they are perceiving and feeling that you are in their world. It's not about being false or being different. If I'm a high I and you're a high I, we're going to be comfortable with each other. But if I'm a high I and you're a high C, and I'm not making some adaptations, knowing the characteristics, the communication strategy, the closing strategy for each of those styles, you're not going to want to do business with me. That's a fact. So it's very important.
Yeah, it's very important. And I received many questions regarding specifically this part of the discussion. But maybe I can sum it up in one thing, that they're asking if this is manipulative. Is it kind of you manipulate your client, or is it kind you consider it adapting to your client? And they're asking many questions about the dominance, when it is the dominance, when it is the influencer. Does it have to do with leadership styles? I mean, it is difficult for someone who is not sales to understand this characteristic. It needs more explanation. Maybe in another episode, we go through these 4 types of behavior characteristics.
Yeah. And because it's linked to human science, and it's linked to all of our personalities, because each one of us has a bit of D, a bit of I, a bit of S, and a bit of C all in us. So it's linked to how do those strengths play out, because no 2 human beings are identical. We're all different in personality style. So it's definitely not manipulating a client. If you think about it from your perspective, Huda, you like people when they communicate, and you like to treat people in a way that they would like to be treated and like you would like to be treated. So it's exactly the same thing. Forget it from a sales perspective. It's being able to communicate with another human being in a way that you're both very comfortable with. And if it means I have to make an adjustment, because if I'm a loud extrovert and I'm carrying on like this, and you are a reserved introvert and you speak slower and you are carrying on as normal, I'm going to feel very reluctant and probably a bit uncomfortable because I'm not used to that style. So it's being able to be respectful. And from a sales perspective, when we are able to make that adaptation, and remember, it's only for a short time, because when you meet with the client half an hour, 1 hour, you only adapt when the person's opposite to you. So if they're not opposite to you, there isn't going to be a huge adaptation. So I normally do a full day workshop on this. So you and I could speak for hours and hours on this. And as an expert in the behavioral field on DISC,
Yes.
there is so much to it. And it's a big part of my program. Sometimes I do a dedicated how to maximize your sales success and understand your behavioral styles. And there's so much to it. It can be half a day or full day program. But you're right. It's just understanding the fundamentals. And anyone can Google DISC and find out about it. There's a lot in the common domain as well.
Yes. So Michelle, you can really read the people's behavior. For example, you are sitting with me now. Can you read my behavior or my personality? Can you know what is the most dominant characteristic in my behavior? Wow, that's
yes,
great.
I can, definitely. I certainly know what your dominant is.
So what is the most dominant characteristic in myself? It's a test now.
Yes, no, absolutely. No pressure, Huda, no pressure. You definitely have a high influence that will be in one of your top two, 100%. You are definitely somebody who is great at communicating. You are a team player. You're passionate. You're enthusiastic. You're magnetic. People are drawn to you. I could go on and on and on and on, but I'll stop there.
Lovely. Great. And we are coming. I really spent lovely time with you and learning so many things. But time is really has gone by. I am left with one question that I would like to ask you. And since we are in the Happiness Club, so I would like to ask you one question that came into my mind now. What is happiness at workplace? I mean, we go to work every day to find stress, to find pressure, to find anxiety, to find unease. Sometimes we find toxic environment. Sometimes even we find stabbing in the back, and sometimes we found hatred. So under all these pressures, how to find a healthy environment to help us to become more creative, more productive, problem solving maybe?
Excellent question, Huda, to finish with. My personal opinion and view on exactly that question is happiness, to start with, I believe is a choice. We have a choice as human beings to choose to be happy or to choose not to be happy. And I learned this through my emotional intelligence journey of 18 months that I had before I was certified by the Goldman Group. So I can talk from experience. And it was a wonderful revelation because I never thought about it in that frame. But happiness honestly is a choice. No matter how bad things are, and we know it's very, very stressful around the world for so many people, going through everything we all know and we've heard about. But if we wake up in the morning and we choose that today's going to be a happy day, and it might be I'm happy because I've sent a letter to a client who's responded, or I've had a lovely cup of tea with a biscuit. Happiness comes in so many different shapes and forms. So first of all, I'd like to say I think happiness is a choice. When it comes to one's environment, it's critical. Because as you said, if you're in a stressful environment from a workplace perspective, I know a lot of people are working from home. The majority research is telling us want to stay working from home. There might be some shifts, and some of us, of course, have had to go back to work. So the environment to me is critical because it can either sap the energy out of you or build you. So I guess for me, it's understanding the environment you're in. Is the environment I'm in toxic, because sometimes we can't change it. We don't have influence over that. So what do I have influence over? You have influence over, Huda, who you hang out with. So who am I surrounding myself with? Is it people that are lifting me up in the office, or is it people dragging me down? So I might not be able to control every piece, but I think certainly from a surrounding yourself with people that lift you up, that make you feel good, that encourage you, that make you feel positive is going to help with your productivity. Avoid the ones that take the energy out of you if the environment is a little bit challenging at the moment. And just say, today I choose to be happy no matter what happens. And just keep saying that to yourself would be my thoughts.
Great. I'm so happy, and it's a really brilliant answer to the question of happiness at workplace. I'm so happy to connect with you today. It was really a pleasure, and I had so lot of information about sales in general. And the episode name was Happiness Beyond Selling, and really it was Happiness Beyond Selling. Thank you very much, Michelle, and I reserve my signed copy of your book, Sales is Fun. Have a great
Wonderful, Huda. And I'd just like to thank you for the brilliant work you do with the Happiness Club. You have been an inspiration to so many of us, and I've been honored to be your guest today. And I will personally, inshallah, give you, even if it's at a social distance, my signed copy of the book when it comes out this year. So thank you for your support.
Thank you very much. It was a pleasure.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.